guys, it's Jamie here from Jamie and His Whiskey. I'm back again for another review. Today we're going to be looking at a 10-year-old Highland malt, one of the most recognisable and well-known Scottish single malts in the whole of the world. It is none other than the Glenmorangie 10. This single malt, I think you can ask pretty much anybody, even if they don't drink whiskey, and they will have heard of this name. There's probably a very good reason for this. It's an extremely accessible malt, a very light, fruity and delicate whiskey. Today I'm going to be nosing and tasting it, tell you what I think about it. Before I do that though, I just thought I'd read something from the back of the box. You have to have pretty good eyesight to do this though. It's tiny. But quite an interesting fact about Glenmorangie is the fact that they have the tallest stills in Scotland. Now those are the spirit stills, and it says that in pursuit of the exceptional, we distill Glenmorangie spirit in Scotland's tallest stills. Their long copper necks allow only the very finest vapours to rise to the top. The result is a wonderfully pure and fragrant spirit, bursting with fruity and floral complexity. It also says that it's been aged for 10 years in selected ex-bourbon oak casks. Okay, so that's some useful information to have on the back. Saves you looking it up online and all that kind of stuff, so that's good. It's a very distinguishable bottle, and as I said, you can get it in pretty much all supermarkets, and it's usually not too rare to find it on offer for around 26 quid. So for £26, I think it's worth it. But as I said, I'm going to nose it and taste it and tell you what I think of it. Before I do though, which I like to do now with all my reviews, is just to discuss the presentation of the whiskey. And by presentation I mean the bottling strength, whether it's been chill filtered, whether it's got an age statement, and whether it's been coloured. So there's 4 things here to discuss. And the more of those that tick the box, the more interested I am in the whiskey, and I always factor that into the mark that I give it at the end of the review. In this case, it doesn't say anything about natural colour or not. Now I've just poured this dram, and as you can see, it's a pretty light straw colour. If it has been coloured, which I believe it probably has, because it hasn't say it hasn't, there isn't much in it. I don't want to say it has been coloured for sure, but if they don't say natural colour on the box, I can only assume that it has been. If it hasn't been coloured, then Glenmorangie, you should state it on your box, okay? So unfortunately they don't get a point for that. Chill filtration has almost certainly been taken place because it doesn't say unchill filtered. It's bottled at a minimum 40%. And it does have an age statement, so that's a point. So they get a 1 out of 4 for presentation, but that's not particularly rare in a whiskey. I'm not putting this whiskey down. There's a hell of a lot of whiskies on supermarket shelves which would get the same mark. They might even get a 0. So that's where we start off. It's a Highlands single malt, as I said, and it's a very approachable single malt. A great single malt to have as a session dram, something you don't have to think too hard about. You can have your mates over, have a good chat, have it on the go, and you can just enjoy the whiskey without having to, find all the nuances or or discuss the challenging flavours. It's a pretty approachable dram, and I'll tell you why. On the nose, yeah, just a really straightforward, pleasant nose of fruits, garden fruits. Just a mixture, really. There's not one particular fruit that stands out, but probably a mixture of oranges and apples. There's some herbal notes, some flowery notes coming through. It's a very, very straightforward nose, but a very pleasant nose. Nothing off-putting about it whatsoever. There's a bit of an alcoholic note in there as well. Slightly perfumey. There's a slightly kind of I don't know how to put it. Almost like an actual perfume note coming through, which you would spray on yourself. Yeah, but give it a taste. Yeah, For 40%, it actually arrives with quite a lot of power. I've heard there's people that say that there's quite a strong alcoholic note, like it's kind of sharp. And it is. It's not actually the smoothest whiskey out there by a long shot. It's actually got a bit of heft. I like that myself. You can get more rounded and smoother whiskies in this, believe it or not. But apart from that, you get this lovely arrival, bursting sweetness, very mouth-watering. Almost like you've eaten an opal fruit or something like that. Or a starburst, I should say, which is the current name for those. So a bit of confectionery fruit in there. It's very mouth-watering. Very refreshing whiskey, I must say. Yeah, and the longer you sit with this, you get this kind of creamy note to it as well. Creamy nose and a slight creaminess to the taste. And the finish, quite simple, short to medium. A medium finish, I'd say. Very nice. Very pleasant, quite simple, fruity and floral. Yeah, nothing particularly outrageous about it, nothing particularly complex. Now, I'm just going to grab my water. I'll have to go over here, silly me. Anyway, so as this is bottled at around 40%, I don't want to drown the thing. I'm just going to add a few drops. So I shall show you how much I'm going to add. Literally not much. There you go, that's probably too much, but I first had Glenmorangie, or bought a bottle of Glenmorangie a couple of years ago. I was quite surprised at how much I quite liked it. It was kind of at the beginning of my whiskey journey, and I've returned to it twice since then. So it's a whiskey that I've returned to, and there must be a good reason for that. In recent times, in the last maybe 10 or 11 months, maybe a year, since I've gone down more of gone down my whiskey journey more, this is becoming a bit too simple for me, personally. It's a dram that I would recommend to anybody who wants to get into whiskey. It's so approachable and so simple. It does one thing, but it does it pretty well. The nose hasn't changed much with the water, I must say. I think I prefer it, I don't know. The water, for me, has tamed down that initial punch from the alcohol. Maybe it brought up a little bit of bitterness at the end. See how you go with the water. This whiskey isn't the most complex. To be honest, I don't think it really needs water. But play around with it if you want to, but be careful not to drown it. This whiskey, I don't think can take too much water. It's bottled at the minimum 40% as it is anyway. So yeah, quite a simple review for quite a simple dram. Now what would I score it? I would probably score this, it's a difficult one. I'm going to give it an 83 out of 100. That is by no means a bad score. It's just the score that I feel that I need to give it at this time in my life. And before I go, I just want to talk about how I mark a whiskey. What are the things to me that are important when giving a score out of 100? Now, I think I've narrowed it down to four things that are really important to me, and I think these should be to everyone when thinking about, you know, how good a whiskey is and what it does for them. The first thing is the presentation of the whiskey. Those are the factors I was talking about at the beginning of the video. Is it a natural presentation? Is it bottled at a good strength? Has it got an age statement? All those sorts of things. The second factor is how well is the whiskey made? Has the time in the cask been productive time? Is it well balanced? Does it have a good mouthfeel? All these sorts of things that are really important. Does it have anything that's off-putting, or So basically, generally, how well the spirit's made. The third factor, and again an important factor, is the value for money. Is it good bang for your buck? Is it good value? Are you getting what you pay for? And finally, and this is something which is personal, which will come into whiskey marks, and this is why whiskey marks can vary quite differently. What does it do for you? Some people like Marmite, some people don't. Someone could review a smoky whiskey that's extremely well made, ticks all the boxes, but smoky whiskey might not be that thing. It's going to be really hard for that person to give it a 95 out of 100 if they can't stand smoky whiskey. Do you know what I mean? So that's a really important factor, and that can't really be dismissed. So anyway, guys, that's me done for today in the Glenmorangie 10. Next week, or later on this week I should say, I'm going to be back reviewing an all-time favourite of mine. I'm not going to be reviewing just one bottle, I'm going to be reviewing 2 bottles. It's going to be the Lafroig 10 and the Lafroig 10 cask strength whiskey, bottled at 60.1%. Yes, I can't wait. I'll see you then, guys. In the meantime, take care of yourselves. Have a great week. This is Jamie and his whiskey signing out. See you later. Bye.